I wanted to make neuroscience like approachable for our patients and the people who work here. You know, it's not all scary. It's actually quite beautiful and intriguing.
Fellow Homo sapiens. In this week's Epilepsy Sparks Insights podcast, we bring to you part 2 with paediatric epileptologist and head of neurosciences at Cook Children's Hospital, Scott Perry. We start with Scott's answer to a question about changing the care route of another clinician's patient for the better through the Paediatric Epilepsy Research Consortium. Scott also tells us about some of the disparities in epilepsy care identified through the PERC, followed by a chat about BrainArt and some highly regarded artists who enable the world to see epilepsy through a new light.
I am Scott Perry. I am a pediatric epileptologist and the head of neurosciences at the Jane and John Justin Institute for Mind Health at Cook Children's in Fort Worth, Texas. And my areas of interest are predominantly epilepsy surgery and rare genetic epilepsies.
And so what happens when you do find out you contradict somebody or vice versa? And can that be prior to, making a decision upon somebody's care and you actually impact the choice of a patient's care?
I absolutely think you can. I mean, we've got a few examples already. We got the American Epilepsy Society meeting coming up and the Pediatric State-of-the-Art Symposium I will be chairing. And several of the lectures are focused on are built around things that PERC has done. So for instance, the Early Life Epilepsy Database is one that, really showed that in the evaluation of early life epilepsy, things like genetic testing are incredibly valuable. In fact, more valuable than a lot of the metabolic and other lab testing that we used to do. So that's kind of a practice-changing thought that, if you did an MRI and you don't have an answer, then genetic testing is very high yield, and that's where we should go. The infantile spasms database, looked at the different types of treatments, ACTH, prednisone, vigabatrin, things like that, and looked at whether the standard of care was being offered, and specifically, and this will be highlighted in one of the talks, they actually went back and they looked at who was getting the standard of care and actually found that, non-whites, there were disparities. Non-whites were less likely to get what we would consider the standard of care. And these were happening this was happening at our consortium. So we're talking about good centers, and we unveiled that, oh my goodness, look what's happening based on the data we're collecting.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That is one of my passions, actually, to help us, close these ridiculous really unforgivable gaps between different ethnicities and races and stuff. It's absolutely nuts. And I think only when we, collect this data and prove to people who might find it harder to accept, can we actually put into practice things which will help eliminate these ridiculous and totally unacceptable differences in level of care.
I did an abstract that I presented last year at AES looking at disparities in surgical care, because there have been multiple papers that will tell you that non-whites are less likely to be offered surgery. And the way that those studies are often done is they use insurance databases. At least in the U.S., they use insurance databases where you use your ICD-10 code for intractable epilepsy, and then you look for the CPT code of craniotomy, and that's how you figure out that a person had the diagnosis and got surgery. And they often show that disparity. But my question was, well, is the answer as easy as the race or ethnicity determined whether they got surgery, or is there something more to it? Did they get a different workup? And so because they didn't get all the same tests, they weren't considered candidates or whatever else. So we looked, and this is not perfect, but we looked at people that were at least referred to surgery. So if you got referred to surgery, was your workup any different based on your race or ethnicity? And the good news is that there really were not significant differences in how the workups were done. What was a significant difference is that non-white populations were 4 times more likely to decline the opportunity for epilepsy surgery when offered. So that tells me that's a target. That's something we have to address. Is why is that, and what is that barrier, and how can we help get over that barrier so this treatment that can be very effective is available. So I think that's an interesting finding. One of the things I want to look at next is regional in the United States, and whether the evaluation is different depending on what region of the United States you are in, and are there disparities, racial or ethnic disparities by region in the U.S.
And also, I wonder, like, levels of education and like
Hmm.
socioeconomic background and things like that. I suppose they possibly play a part as well.
They could, yeah. We don't collect all of those right now. We are looking at adding some data on kind of some more social determinants of health to kind of help us parse that out a little bit better. Right now, we look at their insurance type, whether it's a public or a commercial insurance. We look at their distance from a surgical center, which gives us an idea if they're in an urban or a rural environment. So we collect some of those, but not nearly as many as could be helpful to untangle that for sure.
Well, for anybody listening, watching this, I think this is a perfect example of why collating data safely, securely, but also analyzing it in different ways is so important. I'm reading this book actually at the moment about statistics and data collection and how different interpretations are so easy to do, and I think that's a good example of why we need many clinicians and researchers involved, isn't it, for interpretation of this data?
It is, and like I said, when you all work as a team, I mean, there's power in numbers, not just the number of people that are working, but just the sheer number of data points that are available, and you can get a quick answer. The database was never intended to collect everything we need to know. There's too many variables. It was intended to help a person ask a question and know right away, like, can we get an answer sometime soon? Like people that are in the project with me will, write me and say, hey, I want to look at corpus callosotomies, you know, and this is my question about them. And I can look in the database and I can say, okay, we have 200 callosotomies, which should be enough to answer the question you want to answer. So let's go down that, and if there's going to be some extra variables, we'll go get the other variables. But it helps you put that together quickly, and because we're all in the same study, it just moves faster, and it's really rolling now that we're 4 years in. You're really seeing it take off.
Do you ever have patients ask for sort of answers relating to this specifically, or do you have to say, oh, do you know what, I'll go and check our database, then I can give you the answer?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we use it. We use it a couple ways. So definitely. So every site kind of has their own database, right, where they keep whatever
Mm-hmm.
information they want, and then our shared database has certain variables in it. So I will see patients that will ask often, what is your success rate, or how many of X procedure have you done? And I can look immediately in the database and give a correct answer, not a I'm guessing answer just based on my memory. Like, this is the number that we have done, and these are the outcomes as we have them right now. And I have used it. I have used it kind of broadly based on some of the research we've done to just tell them kind of what the national scope is. So I'll go back to callosotomies, for instance. We do callosotomies here using a minimally invasive way with endoscopy, whereas other sites use open craniotomies and other sites use laser ablation to do callosotomies. So when we talk about that, I talk about callosotomies and I say this is the way we do it here. It's done differently at other places, and these are what we know about the success rates of each of these different approaches. So you can, they have different risks, they have different benefits. You can weigh them. If the laser approach, because it has fewer risk, but it has a little bit less efficacy, if that's more appealing to you, then maybe my site's not the place you want to have that surgery, because we don't do it that way, but this site does, and that's the place for you. Just to help people get a better feel for the options that are available to them.
By the way, random question. That piece of art on your wall,
Yeah.
is that by Dana Simmons?
This one right here, yep, that was Dana Simmons. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So I've known Dana for quite a while. I've got,
Have you?
some of her stuff. It's a very small world. Everybody, if you're listening, check out Dana Simmons online, and we've got her stuff on Epilepsy Sparks website too as well. But just, it's amazing how she makes, neurons beautiful, because they are,
For
right?
sure. I really very much love art. And so, we're building this new building for our institute for mind health. And one of the things, I wanted was that the art on the wall would reflect the neurosciences, and I wanted it to be, and because I wanted it to be, I wanted to make neuroscience like approachable for our patients and the people who work here. You know, it's not all scary. It's actually quite beautiful and intriguing, like that picture. You know, I want people to look at that and be like, you know, what is this? Oh, it is a Purkinje. You know, and we start talking, you know, from there. So most of the art we have collected that will be in the lobby is by artists, first of all, that I found on Twitter for the most part, that have a connection to the neurosciences. They either do neuroscience specific art or they have some connection to epilepsy. We have this huge mural that we're going to have that's painted by a friend of mine, John Bramblett, who has epilepsy, and he is visually impaired, and he paints by touch, and he just does fascinating stuff. So look for that around October of next year when it opens. I'm hoping, going to have a website that actually has all of our neuro art collection on it so that people can kind of appreciate all these artists that are out there.
I actually have a friend called Stephanie, and she's had laser ablation surgery. She's legally blind, but she's an incredible artist. And I just think, wow, how do you do that, woman? It's just absolutely it's nothing. Well, actually, I say nothing neurological. There's stuff to do with the human brain that she does. Maybe I'll send you a link. Her stuff. She's also known as Afro Mom. She lives in Florida. Absolutely amazing woman, what she does. Yeah. So everyone else, check her out too, as well as Dana. And thank you so much, Scott. It's been glorious talking to you, especially after all this time. I feel like I kind of know you already. So if anybody wants to check you out, where should they go? Twitter at the moment.
Yeah, the easiest place at the moment is on Twitter at the Notorious EEG.
Oh, have you got your glasses on, by the way? Your Notorious EEG glasses?
Oh no, these are not my Notorious EEG glasses. Those are at home.
So everyone knows they're engraved, right? Yeah.
Yes, they are. I have glasses. I have custom purple Vans that also have it on there that I usually wear around the meetings.
Thank you to Scott for sharing with us his work with their PERC, his appreciation of BrainArt, and evidently being a really cool paediatric epileptologist.